Ian Garry has been in the news this week for all the wrong reasons. A lot of people have been going after him, attacking him for this interview he did with High Performance YouTube. And I say he's in the news for all the wrong reasons because this is the biggest fight of Ian Garry's career. He got this title shot against champion Islam Makhachev. Fight's coming up here in a few weeks. It's a big fight for him, and everyone's talking about everything aside from the title fight. And I think if the goal here was to get people to watch the fight, I don't know if you succeeded, other than I think a lot of people are going to be cheering against Ian Garry. So here's the first clip that kind of circulated. You look at the views here, 8.7 million views. I even saw political commentators talking about this. And before I show you this clip, I mean, you can see what the clip's about here. It says that Ian Garry says if women ruled the world, everything would be better. Let me know in the comments, but I feel like Ian Garry kind of turned a corner a bit after the loss to Shavkat. He came out, he's very humble about it. And basically since that fight, I feel like Garry has kind of stayed away from any sort of controversy or anything like that. And I think, fans have just kind of been focusing on his fights and not, directing hate at him so much. If you remember when Garry started his career, it was basically the Jeff Neal fight onwards. Fans really got sick and tired of Ian Garry. He did the mugshot thing with Jeff Neal. He did the thing with Neil Magny where he took his quote out of context. And we'll talk about Magny in a second because he brings that up again. There's the whole thing with Vicente Luque mocking him for his religion. There was a lot of stuff that Garry did that fans were basically turning on, and it wasn't even good trash talk. It's just Garry was just being weird. And I feel like this clip and the clip I'll show you after is kind of going into that same way here. Now, I'll show you what he says in this clip here. It, kind of gives it away here with the tweet. But I think the big takeaway from this is I think a lot of people feel like Ian Garry is not saying what he actually means. It's like he's almost doing it to cater to either like a specific fan base or specific viewpoint. And that's where I think, I guess he just comes across fake here, I guess is where people are kind of losing Garry, that he's just doing it to almost to be a bit performative. So you can watch the clip, you can be the judge yourself, and I'll show you some of the comments that kind of back this up.
Should look at his wife and know that that's the person I need to listen to. Like if the world was run by women, we'd all live in a better world. Like it would all be simpler and easier. That's the fact of the matter, whether you want to agree with it or not, or you think whatever it is, if women ruled the world and we just listened to them and let them take over, it would be an easier world.
Yeah, and he doesn't really give any evidence to support why this is. Maybe you could go into like how genders are different or specific examples of women leaders. He doesn't do any of that. That's why I'm saying this comes across as more performative than him actually meaning it. Then he has another quote here. Same thing. And how do you think this is going to go with the MMA fans? Again, people who watch MMA for the most part, very masculine, have certain political views, viewpoints and all that. It's a tough man sport. This is not really catering to the tough man audience. Here's another clip here from Ian Garry, 14 seconds, talking about Disney movies. Again, has nothing to do with the Islam fight.
I cry watching Disney films. I am
also,
so in.
Look at these guys. I cry watching Disney films. And I watch the reaction of these. Who are these guys? This guy's like so happy. He's like, yes, you're saying what we want to hear. I've never heard or even seen this podcast before, but I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was kind of a funny look.
I am so in touch with my feminine side that I feel like I'm more masculine because of it. And I don't care what people think about me.
Well, you're going to care now because a lot of people are coming in your direction for saying this. So again, I don't even know what that means. Like he doesn't explain why him crying in Disney movies makes him more masculine. He doesn't explain any of that. Is it because he's in touch with his emotions and he's strong enough to show the world? Like, is it because he's admitting that he cries that makes him more of a man because he's honest with his feelings? I don't get it. I don't really understand what this is. Anyways, as you can imagine, people are having a field day with this. 8.7 million views on this clip. Jake Shields chiming in, talking about how his wife's ex-boyfriend was in a live-in chef, officially rooting for Islam. Yes, because when I think of the ingredients in great leadership, logical decision-making, consistency, non-reactive behavior patterns, not being moved by your emotions. By the way, Josh Hokett has been very good on X as of late. Yeah, like again, if the goal, and here's someone who's, I know in the political sphere, saying Trump won, we don't have to do this anymore. I even saw Steven Crowder do something on this. Like this is getting to the point where like other people are noticing outside the MMA bubble. There's an adult film star, unpopular opinion from a woman here. I don't want women to take over the world. I want strong, competent men leading and protecting and providing along strong women. So yeah, I haven't seen a single comment. I mean, you could probably find one or two. But I think I think it's not even that he has this opinion. It's that people don't think he actually believes what he's saying. So like, I guess my thing is like, does he think saying this is going to win him more fans? I don't know. I just think it's doing the exact opposite. So as you can imagine, and obviously you're going to get people going in the extreme. I don't agree with that. People bashing women, all that stuff. I'm not here to do that, but this looks very performative. So anyways, he says this, people have their opinion on that. Those are the two clips that kind of people went on fire. This is what I take issue with. I have a big problem with what he says here with Neil Magny. Okay. Perry Punch grabbing this clip. Let's go have a look. It's about a minute long, talking about the Neil Magny quote. Now, if you remember, this was a couple years back when Gary fought Neil Magny. Neil made some quote that wasn't a good analogy, where he says basically like, I'm going to put an ass whooping on you like I put an ass whooping on my kid. And what he meant was, and I know this is a dad, he meant like, I'm going to discipline you as a kid. He didn't mean he beats up his kid, right? But Gary, some certain content creators, not going to mention any names, but they ran with it as if Neil Magny beats his kids. And that really bothers me for two reasons. Number one, I'm a dad. I know what he meant. Second, Neil Magny is one of the nicest, well-behaved guys. Like, you talk to his teammates. I've interviewed Neil for years. Like, he's just a really good guy and not someone that's like ever involved in like anything bad or any sort of controversy, never been arrested, that type of stuff. Like, he's just a good guy. And I feel like Gary used that to weaponize him and make him look like a bad guy, and it's silly. And then he doubles down in this clip. Again, when did he fight Neil Magny? That was like back in like 2021 or something, right? It was a while ago. Maybe a bit later than that. And you're bringing up this quote again, and Neil's fighting on the same card as him, by the way. 2023, sorry. So it was a little bit later. So it's like 3 years ago, and you're bringing up an old quote. Here's what he says about Neil Magny.
So I fought a guy called Neil Magny. Now, Neil Magny his nickname is the Haitian Sensation, and he is a black man in America. Right?
No kidding. Hold on. No kidding. What was the giveaway with the nickname? Sorry, just got to point that out.
Because I believe a lot of the comments I got were from people in the black community explaining how this is part of the culture. Now listen, I was smacked and hit as a kid. It was part of my upbringing too. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure a lot of the older people in England and Ireland, it was a part of their lifestyle too. Whippings and things at school were still a thing. So it's not like it hasn't happened to me. It has happened to me. If I can change anything in my life, I definitely don't want. I'm 28 years of age. I still remember the wooden spoon being smacked across my hands. I remember turning to my dad and going, it doesn't hurt anymore. I'm used to it. Turn it over. Shouldn't have should have kept your mouth shut, Ian. I feel like what we learn from our generation.
So a couple things about this. First and foremost, I love how he like carefully tiptoes around like the African-American community because he doesn't want to make it seem like it's a racial thing. Did you notice that right off the top? I thought that was funny. Second thing is, got to point out the obvious, like you shouldn't hit your kids. You shouldn't discipline them like that. I'm all for discipline. I think that's good for kids to have structure growing up. I don't think you should use the wooden spoon. I've never used the wooden spoon on my kid. Just so we're clear, that's my viewpoint. The one thing I do agree with Gary in this entire thing would be that. But again, he doesn't realize, like he's pinning it and saying, it's something that's in the African-American community or whatever. No, like there are a lot of parents who discipline their kids. And that's, again, Magny made a bad analogy. He didn't say it properly. I will acknowledge that. Magny could have used his words better. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is like Magny went through a divorce, shortly after that. That quote was something that was brought up apparently with him getting custody of his kids. And it's because of idiots like Ian Garry that made it seem like it was way worse than it was. And it was just a bad analogy. Like there's no proof that Neil Magny beats up his kids or hurts his kids. And he was trying to basically insinuate that. And now he's bringing it up again all these years later. Like this is scumbag behavior. This isn't even like, trying to build up a fight or anything like that. Like this to me, this is the part that really annoys me the most. Cause I know Neil, like I said, he's not this type of guy that Gary's kind of making him out to be. But the icing on the cake here is he was full of crap. Here's Ian Garry's brother coming out and saying that Gary's being a victim. His own family is coming out and calling this out. And this kind of ties back to my original point where I think Gary says things not because he believes them, but because he's trying to suck up to a certain audience or suck up to a certain, virtue signaling, basically. That's kind of what I think Gary's doing here with all this talk. I don't think he actually believes a lot of this. And the brother kind of backs this up here in his post here. Let's go have a read at this because this is gold. As George Costanza says on Seinfeld, Ian, you're not a victim. You act like we were beating his kids. We grew up in a middle-class house and everything we wanted. You're the type of guy to take money off his parents and never pay them back. I think the world is entitled. I think the word is entitled. We had everything a child could need. Oh no, you got paid to go to college and your mother was stressed. You got flown all over the world with boxing, yet you talk about not supporting you. Dad personally got involved in your boxing the whole time. And even when he was sick and the chronic pain, do me a favor and explain that one, Ian. Although the one thing I will say, he doesn't deny that he was hit with the spoon, but still, Ian does kind of make it out like he had a tough upbringing. We attended every one of your fights and we always believed you could do it. But Layla, who you met when you were only a few fights away from the UFC, is suddenly the one who had faith. No way, we were already there. You're an avoidant person like me, but you grew up emotional. But I've grown up emotionally, unlike you. You hide from negativity because you can't cope with the reality of your own actions. Missing your granddad's funeral was the real man thing to do. I didn't know that. Jeez. Not even a text lad. We're missing something here. World run by Layla. Also, I'm kind of gathering from this post that it doesn't seem like the family's too big of a fan of the marriage. So that's the other thing. And again, I don't like talking about fighters' personal lives. That's not the point of this video. My point is Ian Garry is doing a terrible job of promoting his fight. And I'll be completely honest, I didn't watch the whole podcast. I didn't get through it. I would hope he talked about fighting Islam and the strategy and all that stuff. But like, this is not the type of stuff that's going to win you fans or make you popular or anything like that. And it's not the be all end all, but if you have more fans, you're going to have more opportunities. You're going to have the UFC wanting to book you more in fights. I think this does the opposite. I think people should be, completely truthful with their beliefs and everything like that. So Garry does have the right to do that. But am I wrong here, guys? Like, I feel like he's saying a lot of this just to like virtue signal and suck up. Like I said, I don't think he believes a lot of the stuff that he's saying. And especially when you got the brother saying he was essentially lying about being a victim and all that. So yeah, bad look here for me and Garry. I don't know many people are going to be rooting for Garry going forward. There is a sector of the MMA fan base that is eating this stuff up and thinks it's great. But I think I think they like it because it's so rare for a fighter to talk like this. But I personally, as I'm doing this video, don't believe that Ian Garry actually believes a lot of this stuff. I think he's doing it. I don't know if it's like a long game for him to be some sort of villain so more people will tune in to see him lose. I don't know if that's the case. A couple more quick things before we get out of here. Darren Till chimes in on this. Instead of giving criminals the death penalty, just make them listen to Ian Garry for the rest of their lives. They cry out in a chair. Like, I've not seen a single fighter come out in support of some of the stuff that Ian said here. And again, I'm with Till in that you're kicking Magny. Again, Magny, one of the nicest guys in this industry, and you're bringing up something stupid that he made, that he said a while ago. Here's Bryce Mitchell's response to this. Now, not the, Bryce has some interesting things to say a lot of time, but just figured I'd show you this anyways.
All right, 3 strikes and Ian Garry's out. The first strike, he made fun of Neil Magny for spanking his boy.
Yeah,
when your boy acts up, you spank him on the butt. Shut up, Ian. Number 2, it's the worst of all. He says that the women ought to rule the world and rule the household. That is a demonic lie from hell. The man is the leader of the household. We have qualities that make us great leaders and great protectors. Women do not have that. They are nurturers. And then the third strike for me, he said, oh, cleaning gutters is so bad. My nails was black afterwards. My hands were black because I had to touch old leaves and moss and pull them out of the gutter. Dude, that's a job. Shut up. Everybody's worked a job. I've been covered in cow manure. And don't complain. I do love watching Ian fight. Great fighter. I'll watch every single one of his fights. I will not ever watch an interview anymore. 3 strikes and he's out.
By the way, is this maybe the best video Bryce Mitchell's ever put out? I don't disagree with anything that he said here. And I didn't even hear that last part. I didn't see it in the interview, him talking about his hands getting dirty. I think one of the things that annoys me about this industry is that there's people that if they don't, if and Bryce kind of nails it here with the dirty hands thing. Like, I think what a lot of people who watch fighting, and I think fighters themselves, again, it's a very tough sport to take place in. I think what people don't want is people to become victims. Like if Gary's complaining about, oh, my hands got dirty, life's going to get hard. You're going to have things they're going to get in the way. I think the people that, there's a lot of people that watch MMA that don't want to subscribe to the victim mentality. And I feel like Gary's saying this and Bryce points it out, they're manly jobs. You got to do them. You gotta get through, you gotta do things you don't like. I think we've all done that, right? And that's part of growing up. And, especially with being men, we do a lot of dirty jobs and things along those lines. I told stories about how I used to work at a metal plant and like crazy hot, liquid metal and all that stuff. You do jobs that you don't like, but it makes you stronger. It makes you better. I think where a lot of fighters and a lot of fans kind of, where what their beliefs are you're going to have things that get tough, but you got to push through it. And when Gary's talking about his hands getting dirty, it's almost like saying like, poor me. No, we don't want to be a victim. We want to overcome adversity and get stronger. And that's a rule for anyone in life. Men, women, doesn't matter. That should be our mentality. And I feel like Gary's kind of leaning into this like new generation, like I'm a victim. I have social currency now. That's where I kind of agree with Bryce. But Bryce Mitchell nails this. Like I completely agree with everything he says here. Really good stuff here from Bryce. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like I would love to find, maybe I will get someone in the comments here, but who agrees with what Ian Garry said here? Again, I don't think this is going to help you gain new fans. I don't think this is going to get people to watch the fight more. I think a lot of people want to see Islam win and get this fight done with some of the stuff that Garry said. So I don't know how he's going to get himself out of this one, but it's just unfortunate because, again, I think Garry was kind of winning people over after the Shavkat fight. And now we're going back to this performative, you know, I'm a victim, this type of stuff. And I don't think it translates very well. So follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.